We are well and truly embedded in our discussions now, and the next one is cannot be avoided. It affects everyone and is changing the broadcasting of news as we knew it. I am, of course, speaking of digital transformation. At the helm of this discussion is moderator Neil Bennett from the BBC. He is also a member of CIRCOMRegional's Executive Committee, and he is currently helping drive BBC England's mobile journalism integration and transformation of newsrooms to meet new digital challenges. So no better man than to moderate this discussion. Neil Bennett, over to you.
Thank you. We've thinned out just a little bit. Today we're going to hear from Sweden, from Italy, from Finland, and from Hungary. It's going to be, I personally think this is the most important topic of the day, and it's something that's facing all of our organisations. Earlier this afternoon, the Director General of the BBC made announcements about a digital-first BBC, what's become a relatively hollow phrase, but certainly today, and stuff you'll potentially read about in the coming days about the BBC, really backed up this time with real change on linear. So before I get going, I am going to ask everyone, because you've all had a whole day of sitting in here, hearing some fantastic speakers. So if it's okay, could you all stand up? And everyone's had a bit of coffee, maybe some ice cream, and so there's some sugar and caffeine running through, which is nice. Quite often when a program called Any Questions comes to an area, the editor locally, like me, is asked to go and warm up the crowd. One of the things we ask people to do is if you like something, and you like something, and just practice applauding politely. It's just that's impressed you, but also there's a sort of middle ground, isn't there, when something is really much better, and so you might put a bit more effort into it. So try that. Yes. What I'm expecting though from our guests are some real revelations, and I have no doubts that you will be thoroughly impressed with what's happening at their organisations and the way that they've presented. And I want you to give them some very warm appreciation at the end of each session. So, do you want to give it a go, and how might that sound? So, sorry, you can all sit down again. I just think I was trying to inject a little bit of, I don't know, something slightly naff into the room. Let's get on with it. The other thing I'll mention is, because we're a more select group now, if you've got any questions that occur to you during the presentations, try and draw my attention. The lights aren't too bright, and I will try and come to you, or use Slido, because I've said to our presenters that we'll try and come to some questions immediately afterwards. Sometimes you've got a burning question, you just want to get a response to it. So if that's the case, don't hold back, put it on Slido, or I'll keep an eye out for any hands up. And we'll maybe come to some questions immediately after each presentation. And then there will be a full round of opportunity for you to talk to our guests. Okay, well, let's get on with it. And we're going to start in Sweden with Kristian and Nergiz.
Yeah, so our digital journey, our turning point at SVT News started in 2016. We then had some trouble. We were losing touch with generations of news consumers. Broadcast news was not only decreasing, they were quite old as well. We had a weak digital position, poor performance during breaking news, a very strong legacy culture in the newsrooms, and a poor feedback culture. So we needed to relate to the changing media landscape and adapt to a new reality.
And our path for this digital leap have some cornerstones that we decided back then and have tried to follow since. One of them was specialization, focus on product more than focus on resource. Audience focused, start to work a lot more with data, with a different kind of analysis. And we made a lot of new strategies based on the public needs, common goals, policies and strategies for everyone, and they were the same for local news, domestic news, developers on the IT. And we gather all SVT's news journalism and public affairs journalism during the same umbrella, SVT News or svt.se. And during the latest 3-4 years, we have had a massive focus on video, on being a video-centric news service.
So what's happened after that is that we have come to be the fastest growing news outlet in Sweden. We have doubled the reach in our target group, 20 to 39-year-olds. The audience has a very high level of trust for SVT, the highest amongst news outlets in Sweden, actually. And when you ask the target group what's their first choice amongst digital news outlets, almost 30% answer SVT News. In 2017, that number was 9%. So we are actually number one right now.
Yeah, how did we do this then? A few insights, a few learnings. One of the most important things is that we made a joint strategy for journalists and developers. It looks like this. We're not going to go deep into it right now because we haven't got that time. But it's about 4 strategic goals and KPIs, actions, and success factors linked to these strategic goals. And this has been very, very important to be measured and strive towards the same goals and together try to achieve them is extremely important when you try to build a common culture and understanding. And that's understanding between domestic news and local news as well as between journalists and developers. Another thing is that we have chosen to have one news product, as we mentioned earlier. It's SVT News. It's an umbrella for a lot of different, in broadcast, a lot of different news branches. It's the local news branches as well as a lot of common affairs and investigative branches and culture branches. They're all gathered in the same site with the same KPIs, with the same strategic goals, with the same formats. And this has been a little bit challenging culturally to get all to understand that they are part of this joint news service. They're not a standalone BC program site, and they're not a standalone local news site. They are part of something bigger with common strategies and common goals. And of course, sometimes they've been painful when we closed down some of these satellite sites that have been, a lot of co-workers have felt that this is where I and my material lives. Another thing is specialization. And here, our strategy has become quite clear. We've created lots of different expert roles, like digital editors, data journalists, social media reporters, live desk, digital video desks, growth analytics, dialogue, graphic, SEO specialist, and so on. And as I said earlier on, in one way you could say that we went from resource optimization to product optimization, because you should be humble and admit that it's a quite costful way of making journalism, but the product make very well out. And these are just some examples from our video teams and from our data journalists of the expert material that they have made.
Multi-skilled teams, another insight. As the head of digital, an important part of my role is to work as a bridge between editorial newsrooms and the development department. I work very close to the head of the development department, and we set different multi-skilled teams or collaboration teams with developers, journalists, it could be IT or growth analysts, social media experts, to basically meet regularly, solve different projects that we have, or solve things that we or the audience need. And we believe that in that way we create the best solutions for the product, for the audience, and for the editorial staff. And above all, I think it has created a new culture in the newsroom and at SVT in general. It creates understanding for the different roles we have. It creates understanding for the whole, and it gives creativity and new methods in the everyday work we do. We used to be very opinionated and guessing about what is good journalism. But understanding the audience, working data-driven is key in order to grow online. And you have to take the data seriously. We're pretty good at collecting data, but you have to act on it. You have to do adjustments with the data. And also make the data accessible to as many as possible in the newsroom. In that way you get higher awareness and more people that comes with the adjustments or relevant solutions in how we make the news, both intake and output. So that's an important insight for us.
Yeah, and then we have the video focus, as I mentioned earlier on. And to be honest, it's not all easy for a legacy company like SVT, or I guess a lot of you here in the room, to reinvent how to make video. But we had this problem. All the data and all the studies show that when we put out our BC material on our news site, literally no one started it. Maybe 5 people started it. And if anyone, by any chance, did start it, they stopped watch after 10 seconds. So we had to find a way forward with that, because we had a very clear goal that we should be the best news service in video in Sweden. And we did not have a lot of examples of media companies out in the world either to look on that had succeeded with this, so we had to find our own path and our own story. One thing that we did was that we, a few years ago, downscaled our editorial daily KPIs that we had. 5-6 years ago, we had maybe 4, 5, 6 daily KPIs that we looked upon. Then we went down to 2 KPIs, video starts per day in our news site and completion on the video starts. And those 2 should work like, you know, checks and balances, because it's quite easy to get one of these high without the other one. But when they work together, that will make a good result. Then one question that remained was, how do you present video in a digital news service? And at the same time, give the audience a lot of different perspectives and the whole picture of the news, which is important if you're a public service media company. I don't know, I came up with the idea, and it might say something about my interests, but I said that I want a French bistro menu. You know, it looks like this, but I want it for video and text formats. So we did it. This is what it could look like. This is the menu for local news with text formats and video formats. And we did this formats based on data and audience services, and we developed it together, a lot of different editorial teams and analysts. And we made this partly to make the co-workers know how to make digital video, but mainly for the audience, so they should clearly know what they can expect from a video at SVT. If they start a video and SVT News, they should know what to expect of it. They should feel safe to do that. And this is the development in video start in SVT News from 2017 until now. And you can see that we are 94,000 a day here. Now we're up against 1 million. A good day, we have 2 million video starts now per day in our news service. So in one way, you could say that this would have been a successful journey. And 5 seconds left. We're on time.
Thank you. Are there any immediate questions anyone has while these guys are up there? There's one just there at the back. I think my colleague Ben. Ben Moore from the BBC.
Mike's in position. I work for digital video at BBC South, and we struggle to have video overtake text. Text is absolutely king. We get millions of hits on our text pieces, but video can sometimes struggle. How on earth did you get video to perform so well? What is it? Is it the way you offer it? Is it the way it's streamed? Is it embedded in text? How do you get it to that key audience of 20 to 39-year-olds?
We have both video and texts, but we have quite short texts. We have quite hard formats for the text. And we have the video and text in the same articles, as you say. But then we have worked during a lot of years with trying different formats, and we have really iterated how to make the online video, and and that has been culturally quite tough. I mean, because as you probably know, an online video to work has to have a totally different drama structure and can't be as long as a broadcast thing can be. So, but we worked, and I would say, yeah, it's iterating all the time. And we also have goals that we should have, we need to have a video in nearly everything that we publish. Then we have some exceptions, of course, that if it's not possible, and if you're a news editor, you can always say that, okay, I have to get this news out without the video. But I think that we say everything that aims to be on the top 3 in the site must always have video. Yeah. All material that is pre-made should always have video, digital video. If there is a breaking news or anything that we don't have any, that doesn't exist in a video, we should aim to have video within 15 minutes, and we don't always succeed with that. But we have a lot of these things that we try to achieve.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more quick questions now, or we'll move on? We're moving. Fernando, in the front here.
Were you able to increase the length of the consumption of those videos?
No, and that really hasn't been our goal either.
No, the goal is high completion, that shows some quality in the videos. So the goal has been to have a high completion rate on our video content. So that's the aim for us.
And it's also, I think it's a difference if you what we're talking about now is our news service. Then we have a player. Yeah. And in a player, you want people to watch as long as possible. In a news service, you have to be humble for the fact that most people spend 1 or 2 minutes when they go into a news site. So I think they're different perspectives and different goals.
Okay. If you've got other questions, store them up, because there'll be an opportunity at the end. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move to Italy now. Alessandro is going to present this as not as a manager and a leader of digital change, but more as an editor of foreign news and a presenter for RAI in Italy, and to give you his perspective as much as a manager within the organization and an editorial leader. So it's not the same format as everyone else, but Alessandro.
Thank you, Neil. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me introduce myself, of course. My name is Alessandro Barkinindi. My affiliation is with RAI, the Italian public service broadcaster. And I'll tell you straight away that I have more questions than answers, probably. But I have to give you a little bit more details about what I do. Because I started work, a long time ago. I started working with RAI in 1996. Only 3 years later, 1999, I was among the 50 journalists who were selected to get RAI News 24 started. RAI News 24 was at the time the first Italian all-news channel and also the first digital news channel in Italy. And that was, of course, for everybody the first big transition. We all know that, but it was not for us just going from tapes to files. It was a question of actually going out filming with our own digital cameras and going back to the newsroom and edit our own stories, the items to send on air, and doing everything by ourselves. It was an experimentation. It honestly lasted quite long, almost 15 years. By that time, all the other newsrooms of RAI, the other channels of RAI, went digital. And at that point, we went back to a more traditional way of working. We went back to film crews and editing rooms and things like that, because it was the standard for everybody in the new digital situation. But I'm saying this because that experience, that experiment actually left us with something, because all the journalists of RAI News 24 had learned by then to do things, new skills that are still with us. And above all, we have maybe a different mentality, and that helps in nowadays mobile journalism that our reporters practice. Let's use this verb. But we know that things are changing and we need adapting. So my question is, are we doing it quickly enough? Probably not. In the last few years, we've been confronted with lots of new news websites and all, of course, in the most recent years with the social networks. And RAI News 24 started with a website back in 1999. That website news website, of course, has changed a lot over the years. And it is now the news website for all of RAI, for all the newsrooms. And it's called rainews.it. But there is still a lot of work to do to understand, learn, and make our teams understand the specifics of providing information through the internet, with the website and with the social media, and not from a TV screen, of course. First of all, interactivity, obviously, and information, even official public service information, cannot be one-directional anymore, but must be multi-directional. And it's a question, of course, of having an open discussion with the public, a space where, you know, interactivity really becomes real, publishing contributions from our viewers or readers. And, but first of all, we must accept the fact that the hierarchy of the information we provide is not totally in our hands anymore. And because the reader, the watcher, the user decides what's relevant for them. And that's the big change we're facing. We've always been very jealous of the idea that we journalists discuss what comes first in, you know, every day in the news. And it's changed, and we try to propose, to offer our view, but of course the viewers pick what they need, what they're interested in. So we try to adapt. I'll give you a small example. A few days ago, the 23rd of May, it was the 30th anniversary of the brutal killing of a judge in Palermo. His name was Giovanni Falcone, and he was killed by the mafia, of course. And that was a turning point in Italy's history. Because, of course, there was a strong reaction from the public, from society, and from the institutions eventually. So the website published many interactive pages where you can follow your own path according to your interests. It's useful for those who remember well those days. And maybe we want to look for some in-depth analysis or have some updates or on the investigations into the Sicilian mafia, but also for the younger generation. And of course, we come into the main point. We try to create an interest, an appealing also from a visual point of view, a sort of an eye-catching flower with many petals you can choose from. And so videos, the mafia, who's who, the family trees of Cosa Nostra organization, black and white pictures. I'm told that younger generation, younger people are very interested in black and white pictures. That comes from the observation of social media. But what you need basically is get to the public to make them find you and want to watch you and stay with you. That's the problem. Going to statistics, in Italy, newspapers have lost 2/3 of their readers over the last decade. In 10 years, think, you know, 2/3 of the reader have gone. And TV and radio keep their position for the moment. They represent a source of information for 75% of the public, almost equal to 76% of online information. But these numbers are changing continuously, and for the younger generation, they have already changed. They get information mostly on the social media. So that's the point. The social media could be our allies in spreading the news, in doing our duty as journalists of the public service. But they do their own business. And their business is to keep users with them. If we use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, only to publish a link to our TV stories, video, or website pages, we may succeed in making some publicity to our logos, but the algorithms used by all social networks are designed to keep their users with them, not to leave them and come to and navigate our web pages. So in RAI, with some delay, I must confess, we've started to have regular courses to teach journalists and communicators how social media work and what type of contents have good chances to be viewed and shared. At Rai News 24, we've done a little bit more than that, actually, because we've used, in the last few years, our journalists use Instagram, for example, with stories. Okay, another concept I'd like to discuss with you, actually, to have a feedback, is that what's credibility? What makes public service credible and reliable? It's history. Every country has a history of public service. Italy has a RAI, which still has a good reputation, after all. And faces and journalists who are known, and they have the trust of the public. So if a journalist who is known and affiliated to RAI goes on Instagram with a story with graphics and maps and explaining the war in Ukraine, for example, whatever, he or she has more chances to be followed. What are we doing it for? It's not, that's another question I have. It's first of all doing our duty to inform, and secondly, as I said, using our logo. And, you know, there's a chance that somebody is more interested in finding out more about traditional TV or our website. But even if they don't, we are there. We're doing our job. And, but sometimes things work in our, they help us, because I'll give you another little example of a lucky coincidence that determined a positive outcome for RAI on the internet. As you know, the algorithms I was talking about are calculated for you to see news and adverts from, you know, that may interest you according to your buying habits and the pages, the web pages you've been scrolling. But another factor is proximity. So you get adverts and news from your area. The regional information of RAI, the posts on Facebook, for example, from each of the 21 regional newsrooms of RAI are actually more prominent and visible, and therefore more clicked and watched than the national ones. Okay, in conclusion, we cannot think we can still set the agenda. We must negotiate a new agenda with the actors in the media world. But we must first understand, learn, and again, make our teams learn, hoping there are more younger and younger journalists joining us. There's a generation problem as well in our newsrooms. To create, help them understand that we need to create our original contents for each specific platform or individual social medium. That's what RAI is trying to do with courses, as I mentioned, and with the appointment of a group of experts we can all refer to for help and assistance, but in time, every newsroom is going to have a team of experts, and eventually everyone, even us adults, will have to become experts to some extent. And among the skills that must be developed by everybody, of course, we need debunking know-how, techniques, and software for dealing with fake news or disinformation, misinformation, what you prefer. But there would be a lot to say about this, and maybe it will come up in the talk. Thank you.
Alessandro, am I right that now every region of RAI has its own website?
Yes, it's been like that for quite a long time, yeah. But they all refer to the rainews.it website and then produce their own things that they publish locally. Okay. But you can get to them through the main framework of their site.
I think we know how across Europe different organizations are at different stages with this, and that often reflects where their audiences are. That I think we'll hear coming up more of that. Are there any questions that immediately there are for Alessandro? There's one here, yes. Hello. Eric,
yes. Actually, I'm producer and director based in Paris. Not a question, maybe just a story that I wanted to tell you. My son is 17, and he's never watching TV, traditional TV channel, or reading newspapers. And last Thursday, he told me, Daddy, you know what? Kylian Mbappé is going to stay in Paris. I say, what? No, he's going to Real Madrid. No, I swear, I know. Because I saw on a website, I don't know which website was, sport.bullshit.com or something like that. Okay, listen to me, my son. I know who are the newspapers and the media who are serious in this world. So I read Le Monde every day and so on. I'm a journalist since a long time, I can tell you. And also I know personally the lawyer of Kylian Mbappé. He is going to Real Madrid. No, I swear, this is a serious bullshit website. And the problem, 2 days before everyone, it was true. So the question is not only what the young generation is reading or watching, but sometimes the problem is that they are true against us. That was the story.
Thank you, Eric. Is that something that resonates for you, Alessandro?
It is true. It has to do with the working process. We are too tied to, let's wait for confirmation. That's another thing, you know. And maybe we are too reluctant to go and dare. I believe that nowadays the problem is sometimes it can be we say in Italian, to make a hole. To make a hole means just to miss out. You don't have that piece of news, and then the others or somebody else has it. It was the nightmare of journalists of past times. I believe that thing is an issue, but most importantly, we need to be accurate. So that example is, failure for official information. But most of the times, I believe that it is better. We are an all news channel, for example. So on TV and on the website at the same time, we go with some piece of news and then we have to retract. And that's worse, I believe, because the credibility and reliability of our broadcaster really gets damaged.
I'd like you to hold that thought, because Kristian, you mentioned about breaking news, or was it Nergiz? You were talking about the speed of breaking news and how to get into that. It's a perfect platform. Any digital platform is perfect for getting out there really quickly. So let's maybe come back to that when we have the session at the end. We're going to move up the continent now to Finland and Mika.
Hi, good afternoon from me also, Mika Lavonen from YLE. I got invited to join this panel some time ago now already, and at first I thought that, okay, I'll list everything that is cooking at YLE in digital transformation. It's a long list, I would say, a list of things. But then some couple of weeks ago we had a preparation meeting for this panel chaired by Neil, and he encouraged us to focus on people issues, or how to change our culture and encourage people to participate in the change. So I took that advice, and my presentation will be more like what's happening inside the walls of YLE, not so much of the audiences or the products that we make. So I will be telling you two stories in 10 minutes. What a nice feeling to come to Galway away from that scene, which looks like a war zone, but I hope not for so long. My first story is about our new studio workflows. Organizations usually want to change old processes, old duties and skills into new ones. And as we analyze our studio workflows, we realize that we have some pretty old-fashioned routines, maybe not quite as old as in this picture, even if we had automated some of them already a decade ago. We have still been having very old-fashioned traditions when doing in the same new studios our current affairs programs, and this led us into thinking of the daily processes in the studio environment. And here you can see on the left-hand side of the picture the staff or the crew that we are using nowadays during the evening prime time. And on the right-hand side you can see the plan how to proceed when we are done and when we have got something new instead of those walls that you just saw. What makes our case perhaps worth telling here at this stage is the way we have handled this. After having made the decision to go that way, our company legal advisors came up with a strong suggestion that we must negotiate this change with trade unions before we start this project. Under the quite strict laws of Finland on these issues, they say that you have to negotiate first, then start to build. Otherwise, you would be doing it the wrong way. That's how we proceeded. We had the negotiations. We met in person with everybody. Told every third one of them entering the room, you will not be having the job left once the new studios are finalized. Basically we were asking them, please try to get motivated to work the old-fashioned way some 18 more months as we still have got these old studios and the old way of doing things. So pretty tough. But as it seems now, a happy ending to this story. These professionals are valued people in any case, and as a big broadcasting company like Yle, we have had some new vacancies opening during this long time already by now, and we still have got one more year to go until we're finished. So it looks good right now, but also it looks pretty good for those who will stay and work with us, because we are now seeing that these new teams they are starting to figure out how to use the automation systems or studio IP connectivity, and also adapting and renewing some of the things that we have in our studios. We are currently talking with 2 London-based partners, Dixon Baxi and Jago Design, who have provided us some very first pictures of how the new studios will work. Besides of this one, which is showing in the picture, we will have another 2 locations where we will continue doing those the things that have been increasing a lot, which is direct transmissions from various interesting news events that happens in real time. And we were also planning to take some moderate, maybe not too fancy elements of augmented reality in use, but also we will be studying to do this. I think the term is extended reality. I know that our sports division will be trying something like this next summer during the sports, during the women's soccer Euro Championship. Okay, my second story is about integrating the visual journalists as part of the journalistic teams. YLE headquarters has a tradition of having production resources organized in a pool to be used for those journalistic units daily basis that have got the story to tell. And now we are reconsidering this. We are formatting our teams so that each one of them will be having visual journalists as a member of the team, as we call them. Let me show you this visual metaphor about sailing, even if you have seen it many times before. But here's one way to cross the ocean. Very fast, very efficient. Maybe it's about sailing the Baltic Sea. There's another way of crossing the Baltic Sea as well. We in Finland call these boats Sweden boats, and I know that in Sweden they call these boats Finland boats. This is also very efficient and very nice and so on. But if you examine a little bit about the crews that sail these boats, so yes, I think this is fast, but this is also requires personnel or a crew which is very multi-skilled. This guy here has to be able to cook the food maybe, but he also has to have the ability to sail the boat. Whereas in this version of crossing the ocean, the restaurant personnel can stay on their positions whatever side the wind is blowing. So fast, multi-skilled, efficient, small, and I know that I make a couple of my colleagues here in the room very happy by saying that YLE regions perhaps, whereas the slow-going boat, which is turning maybe a bit more slowly, looks like that. But I must emphasize also a very positive feature of having very specialized skills to do the work. So the idea of small crews is the thing that we are right now looking at, making couples like this, and really integrating the people who used to be called production people to make their professional roles new ones, and having an active news journalist thinking in their daily work, and not only producing for what it has always used to be, which is television, but also for the digital platforms. I'm pretty sure about having exceeded my time slot already by now, but here's my escape slide, which is the boring stuff that I was mentioning in the beginning. Well, maybe not so, but in order to be able to do things, we have to take a close look at the tools we are using and so on. Maybe it's worth mentioning that we started a Ukrainian language news service early May, and that has been also exciting. I guess we have got some 10,000 people seeking refugee from Finland at the moment. 1 more minute, please. I'll jump over this Ukrainian. I need this 1 minute to present you Mr. Petteri Lepanen. What is happening here goes also beautifully under the headline of digital transformation. Petteri Lepanen is the most famous radio news anchorman in Finland. Everybody knows him, at least everybody knows his voice. You might know that everyone in Finland also has got a sauna. People living in the city, like Petteri, have built the sauna inside their apartments. People living more in the rural areas have got their house, and then they have another building which is sauna, close to their home. Now we're in Petteri's sauna, and why I wanted to show this picture is to close my presentation by saying that what a great deal of things we have after all learned during the pandemic. It was the time when we were forcing people to go home, to isolate, not to come to work. Somebody got the idea that maybe we would take this and this and this and this piece of technology, bring them home. Petteri thought that the sauna would be his best acoustic place in his home. So what is happening in this picture is a radio news show broadcast for all the main radio channels in Finland. Thank you. I'll be happy to join the conversation.
Thank you for being so candid, Mika. I'm not going to take any questions now because I'm mindful of time and this room has to be reset, I think. So let's move straight to Hungary and István.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. You know, it's always the most easy to speak as the last panelist because so much has been said by the previous speakers. So I could even use the first slide as something from Swedish television regarding the year 2016 when they realized what to do. Unfortunately, we did not and realized what to do in 2019. But to give you an overall picture of the Hungarian market, I'd like to point out that we have 9.7 million. There's the GDP data. We have a unique language, just as the Irish do. The 18 plus is about 8 million people, and the reach of the public media, public service portfolio is about 10 to 15%, depending on the day, weekdays, weekends, whatever. There's one important phenomenon I have to mention, and that's Facebook, because there's a huge and incredibly huge Facebook penetration in Hungary, and that's a significant fact. The media landscape is the public service platforms. You see there, Duna, the river, is a contemporary television channel. Then we have Duna World for our customers, for Hungarian speakers all over the world. That's about another 5 million people. M1 is for news, current affairs, information. M2 is for children, youth, music. 4 is sports. 5 for culture. Media Click is the video platform, video on demand. And of course, we have applications for each and every piece of the portfolio, not to mention the radio channels. Then there's RTL Group on the market and TV2, which is partly Hungarian but privately owned group, and of course a lot of streaming services and many, many others. It's about 200 more, about 200 television channels on the market as well. Small ones, of course, but still there. In 2020, we set our strategic goals to increase the numbers of users, of course, and the time spent on our platforms, to decrease the exposure to tech giants. I've mentioned Facebook, so that's the issue. And to control online traffic, and of course we had to make a significant enlargement of staff and change, of course, just as, negotiations, just as Mika had mentioned previously. In 2021, we experienced the most successful year of Híradó.hu. Híradó means news in Hungarian, so that's news basically, news.hu. Visitors were 40% up. Even the Facebook page of that site was 42% up. Then we stabilized the M4Sport.hu website, launched it in April, just about a year ago, and soon after, in May, that's exactly a year ago, we launched the app, because there seemed to be a danger that Facebook cannibalizes our site. We strengthened Instagram and launched TikTok, and there was success regarding the exposure. Just as mentioned before, to decrease the exposure to tech giants. There's a plan to renew MediaClick.hu, which is the video on demand, and that's the utmost important goal in 2022, this year. And so the Hungarian public service media can take the first real step towards modern streaming service. A few statistics and about the sites to emphasize what I've said earlier. Here you can see the news users, 2018 compared to 2021. You can see them increasing. And to eliminate the effect of COVID-19, we can have a look at the average month-to-month numbers. Pick 2020 October versus last October, and there's the growth you can see. That's M4Sport.hu. This is the website, and you can see that it's increasing as well. But I have to say that surely the big sport events like the soccer European Championship, the Olympics, and so forth, have played a great role in increasing these numbers. Online traffic from different sources last year is on my next slide. Regarding online traffic, we have reached our goal to channelize more users from social media towards our public media services. The green one up there is Facebook, still number one. But you can see that it's dropping after the summer's big sports events. That's the peak, that's the summer, and all the others like browsing, organic, and other references are coming up a bit, but this would really decrease our exposure to tech giants. The following one is on social media. I've mentioned that we have a huge Facebook penetration. So if you look at the Facebook timeline for a moment, you see the very same trend I've been speaking about regarding the news and sports websites, all up during the summer of 2021. And let's not forget that these are just the Hungarian numbers. I'm going to show you one more slide on this. These are the cumulated numbers of M4 Sport Facebook followers. And here again, you will experience that growth last summer. Here it is. So there's the monthly average and the two peaks in the summer season. If you look at the M-Sport Facebook site followers, you see the same trends. Summer's up again. Finally, I'm going to show you some pics on the new news website. And the renewed news mobile application, so that's híradó.hu in Hungarian. All the public media service content is on our homepage. The homepage is, and this is one slide from the facelift of last year. That's for text. This one's for image. Here's one for portrait-based content, one for data-based content, and this is a lead cover for breaking news. Rendkívüli in Hungarian means breaking news. So that's the híradó.hu facelift of last year. And finally, coming up to questions of 60-plus audiences, what about streaming for them? We found that somehow we have to mimic the user experience of linear television because that's what they're used to. If they have two buttons in 2 weeks' time, they'll get used to the new service. And we found that it's just the beginning of customization. It's a long way to go. So it's not, digital transformation is not for 1 or 2 years or a short period of time. It's a long road. It's a long, winding road. You have to go down that road. There's the question that does everyone deserve his or her own television channel? But maybe you have the answer at the floor. So the next final question is that shall we disrupt them, disrupt our customers, our users, viewers, listeners, or what's happening? So they will be disrupted anyway. So that's why they need a better user experience, highly personalized way, in a highly personalized way. Much more efficient delivery is needed. And of course, the problem is there that we still have no standards. So we're going from basically nowhere to who knows where to. But thank you for listening, and I'm really happy to take questions later on. Thank you.
Okay, I am a little mindful of time, and I'm sure Leash will let me know where we are with that. Questions for our panel? I've got one at the back. A hand up. There is also Slido, if you are happy to use that. I'll come to, yeah, actually, yes. I'll come to sorry, yes, and I'll come to you afterwards if that's. Geordie, you stay there, and we'll get to you, and we'll. Yes.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Jamie. I'm from BBC. This is for SVT. You spoke about data earlier and how you use it to inform your decisions. I was wondering which data you collect and how you act on it.
Well, obviously, we have the daily dashboards. We have real-time dashboards. But we also do different kinds of surveys. We do A/B tests quite often, both on formats, on headlines, and things like that. And we try to learn, especially from the A/B tests. You can really see the difference with the two types of outputs. We've done A/B tests on square video and landscape video. And it even had, because 70 to 90% of our the audience is consuming us through the mobile. So you could think that square video would give more video starts and higher completion on the cell phone. But we actually found out that it did that in desktop as well, square videos. So just different kinds of real-time, daily, monthly, and surveys. We've done surveys for local news recently. Very local surveys with age groups in the counties. How do they live, in house or apartments, incomes, and then start the discussion, the editorial discussion. Is this what we cover in our outlet, or do we need to change something?
And you give access to that data as quickly as possible back to the creators?
Definitely.
Yeah. We had another question from Geordie.
Yes, thank you. It's Jordi Fortuny from TV3 from Catalonia. It's a question for Mika. When you changed your model of assignment for the video journalist, did you have to increase the number of video journalists in your station?
We are still in progress, but we started with our graphic designers, and there, if I remember the figures correctly, we started with by increasing from 20 graphic artists into 24 as a result. So I'm afraid the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got something on Slido.
We do indeed. This person poses the question. It's 15 years since iPhones were launched. So therefore, mobile web are old technologies now. How do we prepare for after mobile and new forms of visual storytelling?
Who wants to start that one? It is. I mean, the phone is now ubiquitous, isn't it? It's something that is, and it is the place that people. We were talking earlier on. We're talking about Mojo, and we're gathering on the same device that people are receiving the information on. Have you any thoughts about what next?
It might be quite long-lived also. I mean, the broadcast TV lived for quite a long time. The newspaper lived for a long time. So maybe the cell phone will live for a long time. And I also think it's important to remember that just for another thing to get big the old thing doesn't appear to exist. They're still there. What I should say is that since we don't know what this next format or this next device is, I think that the only thing that we need to be prepared to is to have people in newsroom that are ready to develop and that are ready to adjust and accept that the truth of today is not the truth of tomorrow.
Yeah. Mika, you were talking about, I mean, there are some new technologies that we're starting to see. You're using AI to translate your Russian service into Ukrainian. You talked about augmented reality. These are the next things we might well see.
I think so, yes. But to answer this question, so I don't think there will be anything more, because we have reached the end of the history, because you go to bed with your mobile phone.
Alessandro, I don't think I've ever seen an Italian without a mobile phone.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's an important aspect for you as well.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot foresee the future changes, but I'm sure there will be. I don't agree with you that we reached the end of history. It will change. Maybe new, you know, there are glasses, spectacles you can wear, and we'll see if they will be successful to have you know, walking and watching a video at the same time. I mean, we think it's impossible, but we thought it would be impossible to drive our car having a video going with whatever, even the Google Maps. But, you know, so things happen. My concern is with, I quite like the metaphor of the two ships, because I'm quite concerned, and I don't want to sound conservative, but I'm quite concerned with the number of people who do the multitasking. I mean, you have to specialize sometimes in order to do things well. Okay, it's smart to be able to do many different things, but I don't believe that we can rely on superheroes, people with, you know, there are young people who are very good at that, but they may lack sometimes some in-depth, and it's, you know, this going fast, you know, has some pros and cons.
Thank you. And I think we've got a question for István.
We do, Kristian, and I see you've taken note of it already. And the question is, for the Hungarian presenter, who's István, do you plan to reopen the local television stations?
Yes, definitely. So digital transformation will allow for reopening these local stations. That makes sense. But I have to add that in many cases, these local television stations provide programs for ethnic minorities. We have 13 different ethnic minorities in Hungary, and these stations provide programs for those people. So that's really very important at the moment, whilst there are no open, so to say, open television local stations, but there will be if DT allows for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's a question here at the back.
Hello, Trevor O'Cloughley from TD Cahir. I'm a little surprised there's not more discussion around VR, AR, the metaverse, you know, ecosystems, etc. Is it that we don't see that as relevant yet for public service media, or are we behind the curve when it comes to this area of digital transformation and the technologies that we are using?
Can I come to SVT first?
I would say that VR, I'm quite skeptical when it's as a medium for news. I remember a few years ago when I was starting to looking on how should we make people want to watch a news video on the cell phone. And I realized, okay, we have to do it so it works without sound, because no one has earplugs then. So, okay. And then the next, I was in this seminar and they showed news with VR, and then you need to put a box on your head and get the spectacles. And to do that, to consume news, when you don't even put in ear plugs to hear, that's not realistic. So, and I don't think the other thing, metaverse, I don't know, maybe, but it's also very easy to get blended by shiny new things and start to work with them too early. I think that we can wait a little bit and see what will stick.
Do you think it's as much about creating newsrooms or operations, creating environments that can be agile and can adapt to new forms of delivering news?
Definitely, because that's the only thing we can be sure of, that things are going to change. There's going to be a bunch of new stuff all the time. So having that culture and that way of working is the key.
Going back to the question that we had, totally agree with you with the difficulty of this technology still nowadays. But also I think that it's somehow a cultural issue. There are some parts of the world where there's a tendency of showing very amazing stories being told by augmented reality, even when it's question about news. Whereas I think, at least in Finland, where we have our, as a cornerstone is reliability of the story. So I think that we have made the interpretation of things so that if we would be very, very fancy showing some spectacular thing, it would, our audience would perhaps think that this is too much, this is not reliable anymore. Maybe this is an excuse, but that's my answer.
Okay. I think we have one more question on Slido.
We do indeed, and it is, the other digital transformation is the move to short form. How do you tell a political story in 45 seconds on TikTok?
No way.
No way?
No way.
Not possible?
Well, you know, some things, some tools that work in one country may not work in another. Of course, TikTok is global. All these platforms are global, so they might be similar. But still, I don't think that such serious issues as issues rise in politics can be discussed in 45 seconds.
I guess my challenge to that is that don't you fish where the fishes are?
Yeah, Neil, but I mean, so who knows when, and coming back to your point about newsrooms and adaptation, in my time when I was working as a journalist and spent much of my time in the newsroom, the average age was 35 to 40, and now it's the same. So, but 30 years have elapsed. Basically, nothing happened. It's a changing world, and it's going the right way, I think. Still, 45 seconds or not, I cannot answer.
Okay.
I actually think that, although I don't personally like it, as you probably understood, it is possible. It is possible because there are ways of telling a story in installments, very short installments, creating a patchwork of, and recreating a story that needs complexity through little, you know, making the public want to go on and listen to the following part
Threads
of the story.
on Twitter and things like that.
Yeah, it's like adapting to that segmented storytelling.
Okay. There was a question here. Valerie.
My question is related to the boundaries of digital transformation. Okay, where are the boundaries after the module times and the mobile journalism? Are we ready, for example, if you can have and watch a news bulletin in holograms, will you be ready to watch a news report from 9/11 and the Twin Towers coming down? This is also digital.
So the speed at which you're getting?
I mean the user experience in this case.
Yeah.
Or we are going to face the same situation with the Lumiere brothers and the train coming towards the audience.
Does anyone want to pick up that provocation? Are we ready? Are our audiences ready?
I guess we have seen already some very spectacular news events that have been filmed by a mobile phone, and still the audiences are ready and eager to see that.
Yeah, the question is what the audience thinks, and if we try it, we'll find out.
Yeah.
I would say.
Do you feel that sometimes that I think the question was posed, that we're behind the audience or have a responsibility to catch up?
I think we are sometimes, and I think that the audience also can feel that it gives, what's the English word? Authenticity.
Yes.
When there's a short, fast film with a cell phone.
I remember, I'll come to you just. I remember talking to the editor of a newspaper, a local newspaper, and he informed his team probably 5 years ago that we have ceased to become a print newsroom. We are now a digital newsroom, and one of the things we make is a newspaper. How far away are you from being a digital newsroom that also makes a television program and a radio service and a web service? Would you say you're already there in Sweden?
Partly, I would say that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think so too. We're trying very hard not to make a newspaper, as I told.
But we've come from a television background, and television. And I guess our problem is the television audiences are still, linear television audiences are still very strong, and they need to be respected and they need to be nurtured.
Of course. But also, I think, because we have this specialization, a lot of our online staff don't have that legacy. So that's been helpful for us in the transformation.
What I can say is that we've definitely changed the way we do television. And that makes us closer to the internet, and easily the two products can be reversed into each other. What I mean is, it was unthinkable until a few years ago to go live with a very bad connection, Skype, or with the pandemic. But even before, we at Rai News 24 used everything to go live, using a smartphone to describe a flooding in Tuscany, and walking into the water with a smartphone. And that was the news. That was the big thing. And there was one thing to do, show it. And so we are not so clean anymore in the way we produce the TV news. The same thing can be seen on the internet. So internet influenced TV, and TV is now more close to the internet.
Yeah. And our production values that we're so certain of in television, we do also need to translate. It shouldn't be shonky just because it's going to go on the internet. It should be as high a quality as we can deliver it to. István.
I would just like to add that young audiences don't care about broadcast quality. They don't care. And the running order is totally different from the traditional newsroom running order. So that's two good points, and I fully agree with Alessandro.
No. Okay. There's a question at the front here.
Well, not really a question, but I was thinking a little bit, by the way, I'm Kristian Bakker, RTV Oost, the Netherlands. I was thinking a little bit about TikTok and also about the average age of the newsroom. And I think a lot of this stuff is also inside the people who work for us, which some of the people are not very young anymore and maybe not always that flexible. I saw a TikTok, 20 years ago, a famous politician was murdered in the Netherlands. Last week I saw a TikTok from, I think, about 1 minute, which was brilliant, which had almost everything you wanted to know about that. On the other hand, we're producing a lot of YouTube content, and we sometimes have YouTube videos from 10, 15 minutes who are watched very, very good. So I think you can do anything you want, but you got to do it the right way, and you have to respect the laws of the medium you make it for. And I think that also comes with young people who are instinctively used to using those kind of forms. And they can maybe also take the older ones with them if they want to follow. So I think that's also crucial to get fresh blood into our organizations and newsrooms, and have those people mixed with your regular population.
This is one of the big challenges, isn't it? It seems. I don't hold with the fact that older members of a newsroom can't adapt and change to this. I've seen it myself in my own newsroom. Some of the fastest movers are people who have been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years. But is it a problem?
It's management.
Yeah.
Management, is management the problem?
Yes, of course it is.
I believe it can be, yes.
Yeah.
I must be honest, in our company, there are, at the top, in the top positions, there are people who know about the changes and have strategies, and they've found the right people to consult and get the right information. Other people have no idea.
In Sweden at SVT, it does seem that there's been something of a revolution over several years. Has that been painful for in the teams?
Most of all, it's been a lot of hard work during a long time. A lot of workshops, a lot of information. So to be consistent and clear and communicate, to work with the leaders, to have a mix of different skills, both the ones who have a lot of experience and get some new skills with some new views into the newsrooms. So a lot of hard work and a new kind of leadership as well. Not pointing out exactly what to do when you go to, when you're collecting for a news story. Try different things, mix different kinds of people with different skills. So.
I also think that one common mistake, which I have made myself often, is when you are in management, or if you're a specialist, you forget the information surplus you have, that you know much more than the editorial staff and then the co-workers. You have been often sitting for months or maybe years looking at data, looking at analysts, thinking about this, or the results, about the solutions and about the ways forward. And you also have the time to go through a number of different stages of doubt and stuff like that. And then you meet the co-workers and say, okay, well, we have a solution. This is what we're going to do next. And you forget that they haven't seen the data. They haven't been on this process. And that is very important, I think, and I think that we have learned to do that much better during the latest years.
But people are at different stages of development on the, in a very traditional change curve,
Yeah, and often as a management, you have much more information, you have more time to digest it.
Mika, you wanted to?
No, I just, I'm saying that I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Well, Danielle Guido Gessa, she asks, considering the fast pace of the digital media production, how is the news gathering process being affected? And what about verification and accuracy?
So the speed at which it comes through, I mean, this was the point that was raised earlier. I said we'd come back to this. Breaking news is where you're most vulnerable because it's a developing story. And you identified that in terms of breaking news, SVT was just not there.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we do is practicing. We practice breaking news. We practice different scenarios, and we evaluate afterwards. What went wrong and why, and how can we prevent it the next time? And we do the practices with the local stations, with different kinds of news events. And when we have the real breaking news, and when we have finished the reporting, we evaluate and have ethics discussions all the time, so that we learn and get better. And of course, sometimes there is mistakes. It would be lie if we said we hadn't, but they are fewer, and most we've developed and we are much more quicker now. We often are the first one out with the news and live. And I think it's important to remember that if you are too slow and if you don't have the authentic pictures from the news event, that can affect the trust as well. Not only if it's wrong, if you're not there, if you're not quick, well, that affects the trust as well.
And also might add, I think that it's still 8 out of 10 Swedes say that SVT has credible news.
Yeah. Right.
So we have maintained that level.
I can see everyone wants to come in on this. We've got 3 minutes. We've got 3 minutes
add
left.
Something because I said something earlier about this, being accurate at the risk of wanting to be first and then make a mistake. But before, you must think that the background of this is, I work for an all-news channel and a website that is continuously in competition with others, and we do the same thing. We have a monitor, 2 monitors with our competitors, all the other news channel in Italy, because there are many now. Mm-hmm. We are still the first, and so we want to be first. That's the main thing. There's a preoccupation with being there first with accurate information. It's not, one thing doesn't exclude the other. I mean, it's just sitting down when we can, or we don't have much time actually. So it's a process going on all the time.
Talking of time, I'm going to give you a minute each. Both of you wanted to come in on this.
Mika?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, it's not my task to wrap it up, but the key here is, I think, transparency. We've been talking about that in the morning. So if you put out breaking news, people know that what they're watching, what they're listening to. So they know that the source may not be fully reliable, but you will have to verify your source because that's your job. And that's how it becomes accurate in the process. So transparency is key.
Yeah. And Mika?
Oh, I just couldn't agree more. So I think this is a good wrap-up.
Okay. Unless there are any more burning questions, I know they need to reset the room. So I think we'll draw it to a close. And remember earlier on, we practiced the polite clapping, the medium clapping. I think they deserve the...